and welcome back to the AQA GCSE History Elizabeth I Revision Series. This is episode 6 and we're looking at the Golden Age. Despite the very high levels of poverty, Elizabeth's reign is often seen as a golden age. The growing prosperity of the elite contributed to a flourishing in architecture, the arts and education. Due to the farming practices changing and the population growth, it meant that landowners became wealthier. This was especially good for the gentry, as many owned land and lived off its income. The enclosures meant that the land was farmed much more efficiently. At the same time, the prices of agriculture items such as grain increased and rent prices soared, so landowners were earning a lot more money. Members of nobility and the gentry saw an increase in their income, which meant that they became wealthier in Elizabethan England. National and international trade grew, and there was growth in towns around England. This increased the trade, which enabled some merchants to become very rich, and they often used their money to buy land and become part of the gentry. In the 1570s, many members of the gentry and nobility improved their homes or decided to build new ones. This event is sometimes referred to as the Great Rebuilding. This allowed the members of the elite society to show off to each other. These new houses had large windows. Glass was very expensive, so this showed off great wealth. The Great Rebuilding improved the standards of living for the wealthy, because the new houses were much more comfortable. The larger windows made the houses lighter, and the bigger chimneys and fireplaces meant that they were better heated. Nobility now had a lot of money to spend on elaborate decoration for their homes. Portraits, miniatures, tapestries and embroidery were all very popular. It also became fashionable to take interest in literature. Some had very large libraries in their homes. Also, members of elite would support poets and playwrights. Many could now afford to have their children educated, so families employed a private tutor. A growing number of children from nobility went off to grammar schools and on to universities. Members of the elite and noble wore elaborate and fancy clothing to show off their wealth and status. The clothes were usually made from expensive materials such as silk, satin, velvet, and lace. Women's dresses had full sleeves and a large skirt supported by a hoop skirt, which gave it its shape. Both men and women also wore ruffled collars around their necks. If you want to find out more about the Elizabethan fashion, then there's a very good clip from a BBC documentary here on YouTube, which I'll link for you down in the description below. That's the end of episode 6 of the AQA GCSE History Elizabeth I Revision Series. Next episode we'll be looking at the Elizabethan theatres. Thank you for watching and I hope you enjoyed.